Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Working Immersive podcast presented by Customer XR. I'm here with my partner, Kevin Sheehan. If you want to say a few words, introduce yourself.
My name is Kevin Sheehan. I am Chris's partner. I am a proud co-founder of Customer XR. I'm also chief whipping boy. Chris, back to you.
And I am the one who was whipped. Anyway, here on this
works,
episode,
actually.
we have our guest here, Eric Mingorance. He has a lot to talk about in regards to training, so that's going to be the topic for today. If you want, you can introduce yourself, say a bit about your background.
Sure. My name's Eric Mingorance. I have an independent consulting firm. I work with mostly tech companies, bridging the gap between their sales strategy and their execution, which doesn't always consistently match. I would say the first thing about training, kind of like Fight Club, is don't call it training. No one likes to go to training. So in learning and development, or if we're trying to upskill, as the kids would say today, our skill set or level up our skill set, there's some different approaches that I think we're going to all talk about. Some of them involve tech for sure, and some of them just involve adult learning and how we would really approach that in this day and age as compared to back in school when we sat in the classroom and got lectured to and did homework.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and something we talked about prior to this, something you mentioned to me was that learning isn't really, or training really isn't enough. Like when you go to school, it's a journey. It's a multi-year long process when you're learning something new, especially when it's something that involves a lot of muscle memory, I think. So I just wanted to ask you your thoughts are about how training, to really be effective, it has to be kind of like a journey.
Yeah, I often say exactly that. It's not, learning isn't an event; it's a journey. You don't watch a WebEx and then you know everything. It's something that you first maybe take in some knowledge from, then you probably put it into practice, and then the more you practice, it goes from it being something that's more theoretical to it being a habit, which, the idea of learning is not to know something, especially in an adult stage. When you want your sales team or your company to learn something, it's really because you want them to apply that knowledge. You don't want them to know something to take a test.
You want them to be able to do something.
Yeah, you want to change behavior. For instance, you're horrible at handling objections. We'd like to change that behavior. We don't need you to just know the answers. We need you to be able to comfortably relate those answers that for handling objections back to customers.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Do you guys find that, I don't know what your training, because you guys have, we were just talking about, you have a couple dozen people at your organization. Yeah. You'd like them to behave in certain ways. When you have new policies or procedures, how do you get that across and how do you try to affect behavior change?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of this in this day and age with the technology we have, it's like a multimedia kind of outlook that you have to have when you're looking at the journey of someone learning something. It could start with something like video or text, but like you said, you want these people to be able to take what they learn and create actionable, actions out of it. So that's why like learning by doing is a big thing. Not every topic, I suppose, can be executed by like doing, like some things, I guess, like maybe history, you can't really, enact anything out of that. You just kind of learn it to like retain it, but something certainly.
It sounds like you're not going to the revolutionary reenactments that I am, Chris.
No, I guess that's one way that you could take that and really.
They all start in the morning.
That's true.
No too early for me to start loading up a flintlock pistol.
Note to self, there's no intersection of coder and history reenactment.
Yeah, unless it's in VR.
Yeah.
That I could get into.
And starts after 3.
Mm-hmm. So as a C-level person, Kev, tell me this. How are you measuring the success of any kind of learning or development program at your company? Like if you gave them, hey, you should do this, or hey, here's some new processes, how are you measuring the effectiveness of that kind of training or learning?
We are still fortunately small enough and nimble enough to be able to see it from the front lines.
So
Observationally.
Yeah.
I have 25 years working in sales. It's my first job. My only job has been sales. I've been on the direct salesperson side for more than a decade, and I spent a decade working in sales management. So I've truly seen both sides of this perspective. I know from being one of the petulant prima donna salespeople sitting in a conference room being forced to listen to a sales trainer, which our owners would have spent an inordinate amount of money to bring in.
Yeah, that's me.
Okay. I was the prototypical eye roll from the first 30 seconds. And once you've lost me, you've lost me.
100%. In fact, in any kind of, whether it's a sales pitch or a presentation or it's learning and development, if you don't grab them in the first 60 to 90 seconds, you lose them.
You're not getting it back.
And that's why I say whether it's enablement or marketing or customer success or sales, it all starts with two foundational parts, and that is education and communication.
Right.
So you need to be a good communicator. I'll start with what's in it for you, or you don't care.
Yeah.
I lose you right away. Again, it doesn't matter if I'm pitching you or I'm teaching you. Those two things, I got to know what's in it for me. Why do I have to listen for the next 30, 60, 90 seconds or minutes, right?
Don't they call that the hook sometimes?
So the hook should be about me as the participant. Why should I do it? What am I going to get out of it? And them getting out of it is not being able to pass the test that you're going to give at the end of this. It's usually for salespeople, show me how I'm going to make more money or how I'm going to save a bunch of time.
Sure. Yeah.
Those are the things that people tend to care about. Now, there's lots of different things on different levels. Some people might be happy about their particular number of tickets they're going through or satisfaction rates with customers. But you want to try to dive into what it is that those people find
valuable.
And they're motivators, whether it's probably intrinsic or extrinsic. We're not going to do anything about giving you more money, but intrinsic, hopefully there are some values that you have that say, okay, now I'm interested, I'm listening.
Sure.
So what you're saying is one of the most important parts when beginning a training is to kind of have that hook, kind of explain the value, what they're going to get out of this training, what it's going to amount to if they learn this stuff, and then that gets them to pay attention more.
Did you watch Fight Club? The first rule about training club is don't say training club. Like, we're going to stop calling it training. No one's going to go, Chris. They're not going to like it. No one likes to do it. It's an initiative, that we want.
Chris would have been one of the early stage guys from Fight Club. Like when they were doing it, like...
He's like a red shirt on Star Trek. That guy is just getting expended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He'd be in the montage of just getting
guys,
the...
a red shirt, really?
Montage.
I ain't a red shirt, man. Come on.
The thing about it is no one wants to hear about a training. People want to hear that we're going to empower you with a new way to upsell and cross-sell.
Yeah.
And yes, there's going to be a time that we all get together and we're going to walk you through these tools, but we're going to empower you with some tools and some processes, maybe a few scripts that you might be into, a repository. People are very interested in knowledge sharing with what works for their colleagues. No one wants to even listen to. I used to be a sales engineer. I used to be in sales. I've gone to club a couple of times. People don't care. They're like, who went to club last year? Because that is the guy or the girl that I am listening to.
Sure.
What did you do to go to club last year? What did you do to just crush that big deal? And so that does require like, hey, I'd like to know the knowledge, but it also requires, again, it's just not a knowledge transfer. It requires the practice. And that's why, go ahead, Kevin.
No, I'm sorry. I went to club more than anyone in my last company. I had the all-time record. And people, I would host sales trainings and they would ask me that question all the time. And I'd honestly respond to them like, I got lucky getting tagged to some big accounts and I know how to game the system.
Yeah, I mean, that's not untrue for some folks. Then they say, teach me how to game the... Now you've got me. Now I'm interested in learning. Teach me how you game the system.
And but it's almost like, hey, we're going to approach this pragmatically. Like, we're both in the trenches together. Like, I'm not going to blow, unicorns, in your ear. It's like, again, I'm being facetious when I said that, but like, you do approach it like you're a journeyman tradesman trying to learn an advanced skill.
And people who really appreciate their skill like a tradesman, they do want to improve. They want to become a master at their craft.
An apprentice electrician or plumber whine or roll their eyes about having to learn another level up.
And so there's that two parts to that. There's the learning, and then this is an important part that I wanted to talk about today because I really think it's the intersection. It's the practicing. So if you're a world-class athlete, you don't go to like a seminar on how to hit a golf ball or how to hit a baseball. You watch the 1-hour webinar and you're good. You practice all the time. And even if you play 162 games a year, you still go to the batting cage. Yeah. You don't say, oh, you know what? I'm on the phone with customers all the time. I don't need to practice. I'm constantly in the field doing this. That would be like a baseball player saying, no, I'm not going to the batting cage. I'm just going to do it in the games because there's so many games, 162. Who needs that many games? But the fact is, if you're not practicing when you're not in the field, it means you are practicing on your customers.
Yes.
And you're not at your best game. You're leaving money on the table, and you might even be kind of ruining your reputation.
No one in my professional circle, Eric, I'm glad we're talking about this. No one in my professional or personal circle appreciates the fact the reason why I'm the worst golfer in the group is because I spend so much time working on my customer relations. It's like, I just want to get it out there.
Yeah, no, it's an important fact that something's got to be sacrificed.
Something's got to be sacrificed.
And sometimes that's your handicap.
Mm-hmm. Although, haven't you said that training while playing those golf games in VR has kind of helped you?
That was a horrible segue. We're not gonna do that here. We're not gonna let that one go.
We're gonna get there because
we're gonna get there.
Here's the thing. So okay, we've understood that we need to engage folks with something that they're interested in, or there's just going to be no way that they want to level up or learn about it. But then we need to create a culture of learning. And most of the way that we do this is saying like, okay, well, we're going to do some role play so you don't do this in front of the customer.
Sure.
But the problem with that is it's awkward as hell. Well, no one likes to do it. People just feel like they're checking a box, right? Like, hey, I'll just say you did great on all these things.
I've been there before. It is really not too helpful when you do that.
Chris has got a no small history in sales himself. He did insurance sales out of college on his own in a foreign city where he was knocking on doors.
But when I did that specific kind of practice where you have like the role plays, that was when I was doing student painters. We were painting houses, and I had to teach the new students that were coming in to run their business that year. Like after successfully running it the prior year. I had to sit down with them and act like I was a homeowner. And you're right. I don't want to be like, nah, like I'm going to like be a hard ass on you and like give you all the hard questions. You just want to be like, yeah, you did great. Like you did good. Like, I'll buy it. But it doesn't really, it's not too helpful.
I mean, sometimes it does work out great because some people love to be the hard ass and ask the hard questions, and they know where all the berries are where all the bodies are buried. They know both those things. And so what they say is like, okay, I've got real questions that are real stumpers from customers. Great. If you can overcome that, you've reached a new level, but it's not necessarily realistic. The other aspect to that is, and this works when you have a small, as you were saying, Kev, I have a small team, so I have the luxury of being able to observe behavior change. Yeah. But as you scale, that is no longer possible. And certainly our C-level, even our managers, their time is taxed because we're asking them to coach them through this and help them with this particular deal, and then also work with training on them. And could you observe every call? That's why we're recording calls and doing it asynchronously now, so that you don't have to be like, okay, I got to somehow have 28 hours in a day and not go to sleep. So the role play is awkward, or that whatever that immersive experience as we have it now, very tactile, is awkward in real
awkward.
people.
I never did role playing when I was a sales manager, because I remember being a salesperson and being forced to go to those role plays. None of those people are professional actors. And like, you got to go into this fantasy role play where someone's purposefully being difficult, or they have no ability to kind of like take it seriously. It's like, it's ridiculous. No wonder everyone feels ridiculous, because it's like being put on stage acting some Shakespearean, scene out.
Right. And you're literally on stage. So even if you were into it, it's kind of like, well, I'm not going to raise my hand for extra help now, because everyone's like, no, that was uncool.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, I will use this as an awkward slight segue into one of the things that we've been seeing with Customer XR, which is we're building immersive technology and experiences for commercial clients. Obviously, training is a huge part of that. And one of the benefits that we see in it is adoption, because when people are training, especially using organic AI agents in virtual reality, so you're actually having an organic conversation with a very realistic avatar. It's a real conversation.
And a non-judging avatar. I might add.
You're in
your friends aren't necessarily watching.
No one
right
else
then.
is watching this. And
So
you
whether
can
it's
game out different scenarios, and you don't know what scenario it's going to be because it kind of fluctuates, but you're in your own private world, and you can actually practice.
And you could do it again and again. And so this is where I was eventually going to land this plane in the VR world, is that if you feel awkward and you're taxing the time of your manager, or you're taxing the time of subject matter experts, and you have to do it at a particular time, well, we've just listed a whole bunch of reasons why the normal, regular way we've gone about this does not work.
Right.
But if all of a sudden your managers and your experts have put time into creating a particular program with the feedback and the expertise that's built into it, that you can pick up at any time on demand. Hey, if it's midnight and you felt like practicing, that would be okay, because you don't have to call your manager up and be like, hey, I'm about to do a role play. Could you watch?
VR is it's convenient. It's non-judgmental, as you said. And there's another aspect to sales training, which I love talking about this, because I do have such a background in sales.
And apparently dramatic memories from having to do sales training.
And the dramatic arts as well. There's one thing they never really got, which is repetition. It's one thing, they would send us off for an annual seminar in some hotel in the middle of America, and you'd go through these sessions for one day and expect to, like, it's repetition, muscle memory.
Yeah. So that practice not only allows a safe space for you guys to do the thing in, but it also allows the reps. And you see it in the reps in sports all the time, where they're giving grace to a batter or a pitcher who's just come out of something or is new, because they just don't have the repetitions in there, but they're going to get there because look what, this is a diamond in the rough. And if you want to be able to put those reps in and see your own improvement, right? You don't even have to share or show this with anyone.
Right.
The feedback's there, so you can see the scores you're getting, the distance you're going. It's like a video game, so that you can see, am I getting better? You see your own improvements.
In your job. In your job. How you make income. Chris was right. My favorite VR, outside of the commercial work we do, is playing golf in virtual reality. There are two incredible applications out there. Golf Plus, which is the PGA one, and then E5 Golf. So realistic. And both of them do not allow you to fudge your score. So whatever you shoot, you're locked, that's put in blockchain. You can't undo that.
Right.
And my handicap is atrocious. And the only way I can get it down is just by playing more and more and more and getting better and better and better. And that's what virtual reality can do with golf. It can also do it with any kind of soft skill sales training.
I also tend to stay away from the term soft skill, because it sounds lame.
It does.
So I like to say professional skills. Professional skills like, communication, presentation
I'll tell you where I got
skills,
that from. I know
value
what you mean.
proposition. No, everyone says soft skills. I'm not holding that against you. I am curious, though, I would have a little bit of a struggle with. I'm always like definitely hitting my ball into the woods to see if there's like an Easter egg of Sasquatch going by in there or something. And I would
Shout out Cherry Creek, Riverhead.
No, I interrupted myself and lost my own train of thought.
I'll tell you, soft skills, because we're doing a law enforcement training, and I use it. We picked it up when we're doing with very hard jobs, when you need to teach basic, how to de-escalate, how to, to people who have very hard jobs. That's how I have soft skills stuff in my head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, it is called, well, I like the professional skills because it adds a sense of professionalism to how you come across. It can be relationship skills. Not everyone might be into that. It could be just simply human skills. The idea that I'm really listening to you now, as opposed to formulating my next sentence that I'm going to say while you're talking. And those skills, not that I ever do that.
That's the worst.
Not that I ever do that.
Now,
I know guys who do, though. Oh my God.
Those skills. Oh, sorry, Chris. Go ahead.
No, I know you mentioned before that kind of like the automation of getting all these trainings into a simulation kind of is very convenient for people. Like they could, like you said, do it at 12 o'clock at night if they wanted to. But I do think that sometimes putting people into these simulations and having an outside observer just see how they react in the situation, maybe if it's something that they weren't like aware was going to happen, especially for the police training. I think that's also really powerful. You could put someone in a situation that maybe police have actually dealt with and just see how they would react. And I think that would be a good way to kind of gauge how they would react in real life, especially if it's like a really true to life simulation. They're going to feel like they're there. They're going to act like the way that they would in that specific situation.
So tell me this. I'll give you an experience that I've had, and you tell me, is this similar for the product you guys are putting out there? This was really rudimentary. This was, you sit in the boardroom, there's not a lot of action going on. There are people sitting around a table, and I am giving my speech. My speech is being recorded. My pitch, my value prop is being recorded. And I can just, the only action is whether or not around this table, eyes are on me, or people start to go down to their phones, or people are looking out a window. Not a huge, there's not that many triangles needed in the coder space to figure out how do you get a person to go like this. But it is very effective for going, okay, if I'm paying attention, I see I'm losing people at the table. Is it my pace? Is it my tone? Now, because I was recorded, then that whole thing gets put up for, like you're saying, a subject matter expert or the observation of a manager to do at another time. They can listen to your recording. They can see what you did to do the changes. They can make comments. Now, they'll see some recommendations right off the bat, like you used 1,001 filler words of and the and and like and So there's one indicator. You asked questions twice in an hour and a half. They're like, I always like looking at the Zoom AI, kind of AI intelligence for your conference or call intelligence. I'd be like, was it a 50-50? Or was it more like an 80-20? What did I listen enough in that call? I mean, there's just some digital feedback from being measured all the time that other people, that you can start looking at yourself. So how does that kind of information come back to the user and or maybe their manager in the stuff you guys are doing?
Yeah. Our other company, CloudLinks, which, as you know, works advising US-based call centers on effective technologies to further a better customer experience. You touched on knowledge management a little while ago for sales teams, and we're doing consulting for very large call centers and many times sales teams. So knowledge management is huge, but quality assurance from AI, where an AI is listening to a call and then is discerning what went right, what went wrong, what was the tone, what was the customer's tone, and the manager getting a report. It is incredible.
Yeah,
the technology that's out there.
Are those things being combined where we're taking that AI or I don't know.
QA, just quality assurance, quality analysis.
And putting it into the same the extra visceral experience of VR?
Yeah.
I think certain trainings benefit more from VR than others. I think things like what you were talking about, like someone at a call center answering a phone call. You know, like if you create a virtual environment around that, it's not going to be that crazy. Like it's just going to be them sitting at their desk, which they're probably already doing in real life. But for a more visceral experience, like for the police example, that, you know, putting that person into that environment is going to make their brain think that they're there, and they're going to act like they would maybe in that environment. And then you could, you know, provide more key takeaways and feedback for them based on how they acted and stuff, and tell them like what they should have done, what they shouldn't have done. You know, it's less like broad. Like I think with the call centers, like you could say like, you know, you use this many filler words, the customer hang up on this point. But if it's like a police training, you could literally say like, this is how you should have acted in this scenario. This is what you did. Go try again. And this time.
I think you're giving these desk jobs the short end of the stick. I mean, I'd like to see, how did you act? Did you have YouTube up on your screen at the same time you were doing the customer call, or were you bringing up the knowledge base? Like, really, do you know where to get the information, and how much are you multitasking while doing this job? I mean, I've been on the phone with people where I'm like, are you in your kitchen right now? Are you?
Yeah, what
did you walk to a different part of the VR? Because you are not at your desk. You are in your
that's
kitchen.
A little invasive if you want to like track what people are looking at on their screens and stuff.
Just for the VR part.
Yeah. Okay. So you could have like a virtual screen, virtual YouTube. Yeah. Okay. Then that could work, I guess.
One of my first sales jobs was I was part of a very small sales team, all men, based in Queens, New York, in the late '90s, early 2000s. Selling commercial internet. And it was a new industry. It was in high demand. There was an enormous amount of money in it because of the bubble. So it was Glengarry Glen Ross. And you had 6 or 7 guys who were very competitive with each other, and we were all trying to outsell each other every month. If there was a training application in virtual reality where we could play at night and go through actual sales scenarios to see who scores better on the team. I'm going back to a 28-year-old version of myself. I would have done that to 3 a.m. because I was so competitive.
So now that's like gamifying the training experience.
Gamification. So those are the top 3 technologies in customer experience right now: knowledge management, quality assurance, and gamification.
And not just gamification, but a tool that can help you gain an advantage.
Yes.
You know,
training.
and that's, so I was doing some work for a software company that has, that connects into like Bloomberg and a bunch of information for the street, for hedge funds mostly. And the play there is, if you do not have these dashboards, if you do not have this data, it is something that your competition does have. If you are not staying up till 3 a.m,
someone is
honing your skills on VR, what if your competition is doing that? Because now they have an advantage. And you know that if whether it was like what they're using for an outreach tool, or what they're using for an auto dialer, or what they're using to create their emails, now this is what are they using to upskill, you know, their set of professional skills, their set of turning knowledge into habit, into action, and they're using a tool that you're not using.
Yeah. The largest segment of business we have growing right now in the VR space is doing training for quick service restaurants. We have a major quick service restaurant based out in California who has asked us to build out every single one of their over 50 different dishes that they make in virtual reality. And they're using that to save an enormous amount of time and an enormous amount of money on food that they don't have to use teaching these kids how to make these dishes. And the reason why, to your point, that they jumped in both feet so quickly is because if they didn't do it, their competitors were going to be doing it, and they wanted to be the first.
So help me understand that. They're like, well, is quick service a euphemism for fast food?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to know.
Yeah, that is the new acronym, just because we needed one more.
Whole new level to grab a quickie.
The queues, the queues needed something, so quick service restaurant.
I see. Okay. So they're in the quick service, and so they're learning how to make fries and shakes, that kind of stuff?
You know, much more elaborate than that, but still in the same thing.
I wouldn't categorize this restaurant as like under the same thing as like McDonald's or Burger King. They're very different. But yeah, it's a lot of just, you know, there's like 38 different dishes. You have to know exactly where to put things on a plate. So it's less about like culinary like arts, I guess you could say, and like really intricate like things like that. It's more about like how fast can you know where the ingredients are and all the equipment that you need, and how fast can you grab. And you know, that's going back to the muscle memory. This whole training is really just to implement that muscle memory, recreate the kitchen exactly how it is in the restaurant, and give people a way that they could just learn where everything is. That way, when they're there, it's just like it just translates quickly.
My daughter spent a bazillion hours making fake pizzas in a fake pizzeria, and the orders would come in, and she would really love to see how many orders she could get right, how many orders could be accurate, how quickly she would churn that out. I mean, they're volunteering to do this, let alone like, oh, I'm getting paid to do it.
So this very large quick service restaurant, the key to their busy areas, they have markets that are exceptionally busy, like college campuses, where they go through spurts where they have to get hyper productive. So they have a 2-on-1 model, 2 people making one dish at the same time, but they're doing it very rapidly. They struggled with that training. It was taking an enormous amount of time to figure out how to get 2 people to work together. And we built a module in virtual reality where one person can train being either person A or person B, and then the other side is an avatar doing whatever those steps are doing. That is an example how virtual reality can actually solve a training problem in real life that you can't do in real life.
How I don't know how long this has been out, but do you have any data about how successful it's been?
It's under a year, but it has been wildly successful for everybody who has tried it.
I mean, they're already saving money by not wasting the foods. That was like one of the things we talked about right off the bat, right?
That was the initial driver, we believe, for the investment. But then what they discovered is, in building it out and the nuances and leaning in on its strengths, one of which is, again, if I'm being tasked with training with another person, how much more convenient and cost effective is it when you can be that other person in virtual reality? You don't have to have 2 people working together to train. You can have an avatar of that person in VR, which is proven to be 5 times more impactful, Eric, on absorption than watching something on a screen, experiencing it in virtual reality.
I mean, 100%. Even if you're not on a screen, even in person, if you're training someone, I just broke my own rule, but if you're in some sort of workshop or development, and you go for more than 8 to 15 minutes without them being able to try it, do it, discuss it with people at their table, or actually put it into action, that's just going out the door. They're forgetting.
They're not going to retain it.
I mean, it's even less now, but we've been in tune that within 10 minutes a commercial comes on. Like, so if you're looking at a screen and it's happening quicker now, right? But you're used to some sort of a break. You just can't, people go, oh my God, I'm going to get screen fatigue. And these are the same people who somehow like they binge watched Game of Thrones. You know who you are. And so they're not getting screen fatigue because that's well produced, right? Sure. So if you have a well produced situation, but you still need to be, at what point do I get involved? At what point do I do something? Otherwise, I'm already forgetting who killed who in season 1.
Right. Mm-hmm. That, it got me thinking, can you imagine having to go through a sales training when you were, 20, 30 years ago, when there were no smartphones, and social media certainly didn't exist? The attention, people's attention now has to be 10 times worse than it was 20 years ago. How do you compete with that if you're getting up there and you're talking to somebody and this person is sitting there with like 9 windows open, all of which they want to focus on.
100%. It's like boasting that you had insane numbers when there were insane watching numbers when there were 3 stations. You're like, well, there's only only 3. Of course, Walter Cronkite had like everybody in there, but there wasn't 18 different 24-hour news stations.
I watched the end of MASH. It was okay, but
so did millions of other people
because there was nothing else on. Virtual reality is the escalation to fight that. Is that the people who you're trying to train, whether they are a high-paid sales executive or they are someone working part-time in a quick service restaurant, both of those parties have such attention deficit syndrome from everything going on today. You have to be able to shut all that out and compete with it from a dopamine and stimulus standpoint. And boy, does virtual reality check that box.
I think that talking point also applies to things beyond just XR training. When I used to do like the immersive commercials, like the Egress Pros experience, one of the selling points was that people are going to be immersed in this commercial. They're not going to be able to look at their phone or look at the TV or anything. Like they are in the commercial. They're going to learn about the product, and they're going to be engaged. So they're going to have fun with it. But they're not going to get distracted. I think that's one key element that VR, proposes.
100%.
I never, ever once have taken my headset off to check my phone on anything I've done, whether it's work or whether I'm playing golf or any of the VR experiences. I've never stopped mid-experience to be like, oh yeah, let me just check Instagram on my phone.
And that certainly is a big part of the advantage that we talked about. I did mention it, and I'd like to get your perspective on this, because when I'm designing some sort of a workshop, I usually am working with managers and subject matter experts, and the win for them is, hey, do you have like frequently asked questions that people come to you and bother you 100 times a day for? Are you constantly bogged down teaching people the same thing over and over again because you're the expert and they come to you and you're like, I just did this, or I had an office hours and you didn't come to it, or I've put out a paper and you're not reading it. And part of the promise is not just how immersed people will be in a better learning experience, but how much it will alleviate the overhead of managers and SMEs to have to do this individually for all these different people. I imagine it has to be the same when you're creating a program.
100%. 100%. The human capital that you get back, we're evangelizing for it now because we're at the forefront of it. I think the wave of adoption is probably within the next 2 years, where people are just going to wake up to it en masse, and it truly will become the next social media where everyone will be in VR in some capacity, commercially and personally, for sure.
Gotcha. Okay.
Let's play.
So AI, let's see if it's going to turn on. Give me one random business type.
Sure, how about a vintage book cafe? It's a cozy spot where people can browse and buy older rare books while enjoying coffee and pastries.
Cool. I love the challenge, because now we're trying to juxtapose vintage books with VR, right?
Well, we started talking this whole podcast about historic reenactments. So if it's a historic, vintage book spot, maybe if you have a book that's about the American Revolution, you could become immersed inside of an environment that is the American Revolution, and then you could read the book there.
That's not a good idea. Here's the idea.
That's not a good idea because it wasn't mine.
That was the first idea. So let's hear the second idea.
That's right. Don't take no shit from nobody. Here's the idea. If it's a vintage high-end bookstore, a great example of this is what Gucci did in the Apple Vision Pro earlier this year. They have their handbags for sale in an immersive experience where you can, in 16K, 8K each eye, look at, pick up, hold, turn upside down any one of their bags.
Without putting your dirty mitts on the merchandise.
Which you could never do in real life either.
Nice.
You can only look at those things like they're the Mona Lisa these days. But in VR, you can take it, almost feel it. I would imagine if you were selling really expensive copies of books, to be able to virtualize those books in a way and saying, hey, here's all of our books in our virtual bookstore. come take a visit.
Okay,
And then
so
you're
that would be like a home experience then.
kind of like
I was thinking like what they
or
could do
even if you're
after.
coming into the store, but let's say some expensive books are shared by whichever kind of store or retailer
doesn't-
might use it, or they keep it in a particular vault. We're not going to keep that on prem. That's that's in the
course not. No, of course not.
Hall of
Yeah.
Book mastery or whatever.
But it's got to be in probably a temperature controlled environment.
right.
AI is always trying to like stop us, but it never does. I thought this was going to be a tough one. This is easy. We have more book ideas for VR than we need.
I was thinking that we had to create a training. Which, first off, don't even call it that.
Talk about a segue.
I thought that was the rule of like, hey, how are we calling what kind of VR learning development session are we creating? And when you said the Gucci thing, I thought you were coming to the clientele that come in there, maybe at a particular level that like when you go to Tiffany's or something, you're offered a cup of coffee first. There might be an experience, a customer experience that you want to make sure people who work at that vintage shop, and it doesn't necessarily all have to be like all high end. It might be like, are you putting the right vinyl on right now? Since it's, but you're like bookstores, the way they win right now is creating a particular environment, a boutique experience for folks. And in order to really get that boutique experience, I would imagine that you could set up your virtual environment and pass or fail on whether you created that experience.
Yeah, which is what I call soft skill training or customer service training, customer experience training.
You wouldn't call it book smarts?
Book smarts? No, that doesn't make any sense.
That
makes no sense.
Because with the pun in the...
That's a good idea, though. I like the, looking at it from a training aspect, especially if it's their whole thing is like we have to like kind of adhere to some kind of aesthetic or like some kind of particular vibe.
That's what the Gucci app really is. If I speak about it often in XR circles, it's one of the big ones this year. There's two platforms really competing for market space, which is 98% dominated by Meta's Quest platform, which is the $400 headsets. The other 2% is with the Apple Vision Pro, which is retails for about $3,800. And Apple took a lot of flack because they came out with such an expensive, frivolous device.
Yep.
But it's a much higher performing device. So they have, tiny basis points of market share. Gucci chose to build this app only in the Apple Vision Pro. And when they did so, it's going to come full circle. Watch it happen right here. I was giving them grief for like, why wouldn't they build it out in Meta as well? And then it hit me. They don't want volume of eyeballs, they want the quality of eyeballs. And if somebody has $3,800 to buy a frivolous VR headset,
then they can maybe buy the lowest bag at Gucci.
Yeah, or the biggest one. That theory turned out to be true, and they're killing it with this app. They're getting a lot of positive feedback and a lot of people doing the app on a regular basis to constantly go through their new bags. And it's amazing. I mean, they transport you to the factory in Italy where everything is made. And then they transport you to a fashion show where you're sitting next to celebrities. And then you go into the showroom and you look. So it's like IKEA in VR for Gucci bags. You have to start out in the history of the factory and you're walking around the factory, seeing and almost feeling. Now you're sitting next to the Kardashians at a fashion show and you have to watch the clips from the fashion show. And then you get to shop for the bags. And you can pick up, feel, look around. It's the future of retail. It truly is, in my opinion.
It's almost like getting a Gucci bag like a Disney World ride, where you get a whole little experience. You have to
Your wallet needs to be this tall to ride this ride.
Yeah, I've never been to Disney before, so I can't speak to that.
Well, a lot of the rides have gift shops at the end, so that's why.
That's nice.
I would say that making that experience something that someone wants to go to and wants to return to does, again, intersect with this idea. If we want people to have a learning experience or really take up something, it needs to be something that happens more than once. And it has to be something done in a way that they want to keep going back to it, as opposed to being forced to check this box and do this training. It's not supposed to be a one and done if you really want to learn, develop, and excel.
Right.
If you want to change behavior, it has to be something that folks go back to again and again in a safe space that's economical for folks to pull off without their managers or their SMEs having to be involved at all times, and be more on demand. So it is a pull action versus a push on you action.
What, in your experience, Eric, and I'm fascinated by this question because, again, I have over a decade of sales management experience and many more years as a salesperson myself. What's the number one driving factor for people who want to learn in a professional capacity?
Lots of times they want to be the best. They want to be up there. And that comes with a few things. One, you make more money.
Right.
Two, your peers respect you and see you on the leaderboard again and again. And three, you're kind of driven like an athlete to just kind of be at the top of your game. And so they're doing it to be at the top of the game. And with that, the top of their own game, they'd love to be at the top of the leaderboard. And with that comes some actual monetary rewards.
Yeah. I'm very remiss that our business partner and bodyguard, Frank, isn't here because I worked with Frank in a sales team for many years. And then Frank was promoted and I worked for Frank for many years. And I'm quite nostalgic to what our motivations were back when we were much younger men. I thought I did it because I enjoyed it, not from a financial perspective. I wasn't trying to be the best, like driven in a Tiger Woods way, where like you could have just given him any medium and he would have become the best in that. I think I enjoyed the game of selling and closing deals for its own merits, the fun of it.
Yeah, and so I did try to say, hey, the rewards came from the achievements, but being that you enjoyed the game, did you not try to get better at it?
Oh no, yeah. I was a weird one though. Like,
okay, you're not a barometer then.
Yeah, I'm not like this is the reason why I say I wish Frank was here because he'd be able to speak to it much better. I was sort of an aloof anomaly, but Frank was a prototypical person you're thinking of.
Would you say that you got better by just doing and going to a lot of sales meetings and just selling?
That is the reason why.
Repetition?
Behind closed doors. You know how like in Dune, Paul Atreides had like his public name Moadib, but then he had Usul on the back end that only the people on the inside know. His Usul name is Segway because he will be our Segway in the best ways always. Yes, to your point, Chris, I've only gotten better in anything that I've ever done in my life by repetition.
I mean, that tends to be the case for everybody.
And
our mission is how do we make that repetition, that practice, that experience the best it can be, where they enjoy and they actually excel at the same time.
Right. Yeah. And I think that perhaps, again, from my perspective of myself and people I've managed, there's really two types. Making an analogy yet once again to golf, there are two types of people who play golf. People who enjoy it for what it is, the fun of it, and people who are just driven like, compulsively to be the best.
You probably don't enjoy it that much if you suck like horribly at it.
Yeah, that's true too. If you get good, yeah, that's probably true.
I mean, people tend to like enjoy things that they're good at. And there might be some natural propensity for that,
right?
But it's always because you put in the reps.
Yes. And I guess where Chris and I are both trying to, I think, arrive to the same point. Gamification of one's professional skills is something that is worth platinum to an organization, because once you turn those jobs into either it's a game and it's fun, or I'm just driven to get better, and gamifying complex personal interactional skills in a virtual reality environment and making it a game of some sort where you can see numbers and you get better and better. If we had that 30 years ago, that office would have done 3 times the volume of business.
You know, you hit on something that's super important, which is the numbers, the data.
The data.
Like I've got a sleep app, I got an eat app,
Yep.
I've got a steps app. I got to see the numbers to everything, right? And so if you can immerse yourself in a work experience where you can get data back on the numbers, how am I doing? What's my filler word count? What's the reactions of
Yeah.
people? Am I doing this quicker? Am I producing more? Back to the sports analogy, I like to say it doesn't matter if you're the little leagues or the big leagues, everybody watches the films on Monday.
Sure.
Why? Because they want to see how they did and they want to calculate, are they getting better from the last time I did this?
Here's a great business idea. I'm throwing this out to Jay as well. Imagine having a meter on you at all times, and it's scoring you as a person overall in life.
Black Mirror. Have you watched Black
But
Mirror?
like I'm cruising at a 5. I've been in the 5 to 6s all week. It encompasses everything: exercise,
Yeah.
like how much money you make,
Yeah.
how good a person you are,
Yeah.
like all the things that you need to do. What are you eating? What are you sleeping? What are you drinking? And like you have an overall score.
All of a
that's
sudden, the
all-
suicide rate of the country goes up to Seattle. It's like at Seattle
I can't
levels
get above
everywhere.
a 6 no matter what I do.
Yeah, no, there's an episode.
Oh, you got to
of
meet
Black
this
Mirror
girl.
about
She's
that.
a 9.5 all the time.
No one could have any secrets anymore if that was the case.
No one could have any secrets
Which I think
anymore.
was one of the things that happened in the Black Mirror episode.
Okay. To be clear, for legal reasons, that is not any embellishment of the series Black Mirror on Netflix.
Or is it?
Or is it?
Depends.
All right, so I'd like to really say I appreciate us having this
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
conversation.
yeah.
It is at the intersection of two things that are near and dear to my heart. Technology is going in a way that, as you said, we're just going to be waking up and doing it someday. It is, for those of you that might have started with 20-sided dice in a board game, it is next level of how we are immersing ourselves in
think
not
so.
just games, but our professional lives, maybe even our personal lives. I'm excited on how that takes some of the ideas behind what, still content is king. It's going to matter how we create that stuff. Do we have adult development in mind? Are we doing it right? Not just for the sake of, oh, isn't that cool? We have, avatars, but how is that really helping me change my behavior and get better? I'm excited for the future.
Yes, as are we.
Yeah, we are too. We're doing a lot of
banking on
stuff relating to training. So I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your knowledge and your thoughts. I think it's very valuable to both of us and all the viewers. So really appreciate you coming on. Shout out to the Rockville Center Chamber of Commerce. That's where we met. But yeah, if there's nothing else, I guess we'll close it out.
No, we'll close it out, Chris.
All right, let's close
Great
it out.
talking to you both.
Great. It's been great. Another episode done. We'll see you guys next time.
Peace out.